this professional outfit that proposed that.
Is that right?
I've never heard of such a thing.
I'm not a
but-
planner, but no, I've never seen that.
Yeah. I kept asking questions about it. It just didn't sit well.
They need to bring that into Dawn, to our planning department, and have them take a look at that.
Right,
I thought the meeting went well, the presentation
good.
that morning. They asked great questions.
Oh, my.
I think Jamie and I had answers. I don't know if they were great answers, but we gave them our answers.
Right,
And so we're anxious to hear back and see if the board is willing to further the conversation.
right,
So we'll see.
yeah,
We appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to the board directly.
right.
And hopefully that answered the questions. We still owe them a rendering of the new right turn lane coming down radio station, no, coming down 488. The right
Okay,
turn lane,
right.
that realignment of that turn lane, and Jamie's getting the graphical rendering of that. And I think that will answer that was the last outstanding question that we had, was just wanted a better picture of what that's gonna look like.
Right. Okay.
So,
We're recording.
oh, and we're unmuted. I thought we were still muted. Sorry. We're just talking about other business here. So other topics. All right, I'm a guest.
Oh, okay. Hey, shall I call myself the oracle? No, I swear, I'm wondering if they're holding them down there until they think they have everybody.
I had let them know to send them up,
Yeah,
so.
Cindy sent me on up, I guess, because she felt comfortable. I knew where it was, where this room was.
I let Kelly know too, that we were sending some people. She was gonna check.
Okay. It's fine. It's turned into a snowy afternoon. Maybe people don't want to be out on the roads.
So it took an hour for it to make it here from Ashburn, Virginia. I got a text from my dad that was like, it's snowing here, and I was like, an hour later, I was like,
I don't see them, but Kelly says she's going downstairs. So she's gonna see if
Well, you're here because last meeting, the
That's
two
okay.
asked for you to be
That's
here.
okay. We can still go through the questions from memory, and then I can try and address them.
Well,
Recording is running, so.
It was more of, they were confused on what their requests were compared to what they were doing. And I tried to explain to them, they said it would be better if you did.
That's fine.
Did, do you have any reason or, for resigning?
The meeting. I mean, I hate to say the stupid Andre said meeting, well, his wife is moving to Ohio, so in a couple months, he's gonna have to resign.
You kidding me? Oh, man. Hmm.
So I'm hoping this last one that we interviewed, I can confirm she lives in town because she was really good.
Yeah,
She was really good.
yeah.
This is definitely a military heavy transit community from what I'm seeing.
I am about 90% sure that our former chairman did not live in town. And I'm 99% sure she didn't know it,
Oh,
to be honest. If people see La Plata, they think it lives in La Plata unless they are,
we actually, I check the utility billing to see if they're in there. And we had another applicant, and when I checked that, I saw that her address wasn't in there. And then she questioned it, and I said, well, I'll double check with planning, and planning confirmed that that address is not within the town limits.
right,
And that's when I checked the other one, but then when I asked planning, because I couldn't find any utility either, she said, well, that address doesn't exist. And I was like, okay, well, then I Googled it. When I Googled it, it put it right by Dorchester, where we have that property. I'm like, well, that can't be right. She has to be. And so I emailed her and said, can you give me clarity on your actual address because this is not coming up enough.
Found one more.
We got some, yay.
Been found.
All right.
So Andre. Hold on.
No, I read it. It's Andres.
They are done downstairs, but.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I mean, we're set up for it.
And just so you're aware, we're live and recording live, so just for awareness of the room.
Well, why don't we, it is 5 after, so why don't we go ahead and start? Because I definitely have a hard stop at 3.
Okay.
So that's just my recommendation.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine.
I'm gonna shut this door.
Donna? Okay, all right, call meeting to order. And we need to approve the agenda, although maybe we don't need to under these circumstances, okay?
So we can't do that.
What
Are those circumstances?
huh?
What are those circumstances?
This is not a re.
You don't have
We
a
don't
quorum.
May I suggest that, instead of going, looking at the, treasury report and the cash report, that we do,
That's fine.
that way Chuck can
Yeah. Chuck's
Do
got
what
a lot
he
of stuff
needs to
that you
do.
have to go first.
do all that. And I'm not,
That's fine. So from our last meeting, and I don't know if you were, Karen has resigned.
I just heard it.
Oh. Okay.
I was wondering why you didn't include her on. the mail.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so she resigned a few days after the last meeting. But I know you guys wanted to talk to Chuck about getting what the expectations of the finance committee and what the duties of the finance committee, because it has changed from when it was originally formed to when Chuck came on as town manager. So I invited him here to kind of talk about what his vision and expectations for the finance committee was, because it's definitely like the budget, what was expected from you last budget was very different from this one.
Okay, I'll start talking. How's that? All right. First of all, so I'm Chuck Stevens, I'm town manager. I think you know that. I think we've met now a couple of times. Before we start, I've got to thank the finance committee, and I'll just thank the committee at large, and maybe they'll watch the recording later. So for the work that you've already done, and it's already been significant, and we appreciate that because it absolutely helps the town, it helps the staff, helps me prepare a better product to bring forward to the council. So I thank you for that. Not only your work with the budget review, but your work with the calculations on the Browns quick test and also on the reserve policy. So those are some of the things that I'm going to talk about here as we go through this. But Karina came to me after the last meeting and said, could I be here today? Because there were questions specifically with regard to the role you played last year versus the role we asked you to play this year. It's my understanding, having not been here last year, but it's my understanding that the finance committee played a more active role in development of the budget. Whereas this year, we gave you a draft budget and said, can you take a look at this? So that's something I brought with me. And I don't know, how historically how the town has asked the volunteer finance committee to weigh in on budget. But what I'm used to is having an advisory committee like this play an advisory role, right, and do analysis. I think, were you here in January when we did the boards and commissions training? I think you were that evening, right? I don't recall if you were at that meeting in January.
I think I might have been.
Okay, right.
But
But
I
like,
guess it's significant, it's that one in the town.
yeah, the training was very high level. It was an orientation, but one of the earliest slides was what is a committee and what are we asking of all of our committees across the town? And it really is to be an advisory role, with the exception of certain committees like the planning commission, which has some statutory authorities, right? Those are different, board of appeals, those things. But really help us do analysis. So especially with the finance committee, you all bring a wealth of experience to the town, and our finance team is very, very thin. What's your total staffing? It's about 8, but that counts the front desk personnel, and that does intake for utility payments and everything. So the whole team is 8, but as far as the financials go, building the budget, tracking the audit, those kinds of things, it's probably 3, right? Okay, so very, very thin. So I look at these committees, the finance committee especially, as really as an extension of the staff to help us do analysis. Okay, so what the finance committee, what my ask of you when I came back in the fall, and I don't remember exactly what month that was, but I remember I came in the fall and we had a chat, and I got my notes from that meeting. I said I was going to bring you a budget. It would be a draft budget. We would have it largely prepared, and we did that. We gave it to you in February, I think, right? Right after we buttoned it up.
Yeah.
And primarily, I wanted you to take a look at our revenue projections and our planning assumptions, because those are two things that the elected bodies for any entity, you know, when we bring a budget is a plan, and it's forward-looking, it's something in the future. So budgets always have assumptions built into them. And that's something that elected officials usually want to know a lot about. Like, where did you get these assumptions? What are they based on? Are they, what's our level of confidence in the assumptions for these forecasts? Okay, that's where I see the finance committee being really useful. And so just reviewing the methodology and the assumptions that we made. I think did we already have the state tax information?
Yes,
Okay.
the day I got that, that's where I updated it and then sent it to the committee, the budget, yes.
Yeah, okay, so we didn't have to make an assumption there, we already
I
had.
have removed the one that I had calculated and used the state.
So that was the first thing, was check our assumptions and look at our revenue projections for the budget.
If I recall, your assumption is not far.
No, it was like 80,000 off from what the state.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, but that's really validating, and that's good to hear, right? The second thing that I asked of you back in the fall was to take a look at our fiscal sustainability. And I said, when I do a budget, I like to make sure that revenues cover expenditures. So for our operating, like, I want to make sure that for our operating budget especially, that incoming revenues cover expenditures. Now, I know there's a more legal definition, and I believe you in our code. I think balanced budget means, and this is typical across municipalities and local government, it's revenues plus fund balance cover expenditures, right? You always got to have that wiggle room. We understand and know we don't want to spend fund balance on operating. We got that. And the budget that we gave you did not do that or anticipate doing that. Our revenues, as we've captured them in this draft, covered our expenditures, but we wanted a second set of eyes on that, right? Because that's a really, I think of all the things that I say, and I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch the budget presentation we did on Tuesday night, but we presented the budget to council on Tuesday evening. And I started that presentation by saying this is a balanced budget, and this is what I mean by that. It's really important that when I say that I can back it up and say, well, our staff thinks that we're covering expenditures. We had our independent arm, our analysis branch, the finance committee also looked at it, and they concur. Back in the fall, we also talked about a whole bunch of policy levers, and I went through some of the policy levers that we might have to pull if the budget was more challenging than it turned out to be. We did not have to pull any of those policy levers. Those were things like reduction in workforce, or, there were I think there were about a dozen policy levers that I covered with you back in the fall. We didn't have to pull any of those, right? So that's great. That's not to say that the finance committee's off the hook just yet, because this coming Tuesday on the 17th, we're having our budget meetings, our work sessions with the council. They'll be streamed live, they'll be recorded. You can watch them at your leisure or watch them live as they happen. And depending on guidance that I get from the elected body, we might make changes to this budget. In fact, I would say we are going to make changes to the budget. I can't imagine this budget will survive without a single change. Something's going to change.
Already got some changes in there.
Right. So But if it changes so dramatically that we need to go back and look, like all of a sudden now we're not in the black or in the red, revenues are no longer covering expenditures, I might have to come back to you. I'm not anticipating that for the FY '27 budget now that we've gone through it. I'm not anticipating that, but that was something that I asked to the finance committee back in the fall.
The thought occurs to me that, if you allow me to interrupt.
Yeah.
Would that require us to have an all-cycle meeting?
It would,
It
if that
could.
came back, yeah.
It could.
Because we have a schedule, so we are scheduled to have the budget adopted May 12th. And that is because the county's got to know what the tax rate is
Oh, yeah.
by May 19th.
Yeah, we
And
don't
I
use that.
can't, I have to give them to say that we're not gonna change or we're gonna change, but I need to know what our budget is to confirm that.
And then the last thing that I asked you to do, you did, and that was the financial assessment, and that was the Brown's quick test for small municipalities. That actually came up in the conversation on Tuesday night, this past Tuesday. One of our counselors brought that up, was very thankful for that analysis, because it really does, again, it's all about the comfort level and the level of confidence in the elected body, especially with a brand new elected body. They've never done a government budget before. All of a sudden, they've got this fiduciary responsibility for this corporate entity that is the town of La Plata. And that's a lot of pressure. And so there's always a question about, well, are we, what is our fiscal health? Are we strong? Are we not? Where are we? Is it good? Is it bad? You know, you're always hearing the administrator saying things are tight. I'm always wringing my hands and worried about money, right? And you have to be careful in my job doing that, because it conveys a sense of worry sometimes. And so that test, I think, for what it is, I think it's worth every ounce of energy that we expend in doing the calculations, because it just gives the elected body a sense of, okay, like we're right in the national average, or in this case, we're leading in some cases. And I think the town is in very good fiscal health right now. I mean, that would be my assessment. So those are the things that we talked about back in the fall that I'm looking for from this committee. And then as I went through my list of like all the things that I have finance committees do for me, I just highlighted some of the things that you've already done, and I just wanted to call you out for that, and thank you for it. So first of all, you went through the draft budget, and that's no easy task, because it's a bunch of numbers and it's a bunch of spreadsheets, and you got to go through it. And with your financial background, you're going through it. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of your time, and I want to recognize and respect that. So thank you for doing that. But the questions that you ask and the comments that you give back to us, that rigor, that is really important. That's what we want. We want that discourse, we want the dialogue. I want to be wire brushed in this room with you, not in chambers in front of council, right? I'd rather have someone find the error, the omission, something we overlooked, a number that got misentered or transposed. Like, I want you to find it so that we can fix it, so that when we give it to the elected body, we don't look silly, right? It diminishes our credibility if that happens. And so thankfully that, touch wood, hasn't happened, and it's because of your third-party oversight. So thank you for that. I've already talked about reviewing the projections and the revenues, and I think that the finance committee did exactly what we asked. You reviewed the revenues, you checked our assumptions, you gave us an evaluation as to whether or not you felt that they were realistic or conservative or overly optimistic. I know I may have shared this with you last time. I had a Board of County Commissioners. It was a very tight budget, and they asked me, I don't know if it was in public or offline, but they said, well, can you just, project the revenues a little higher and make this go away? It's like, well, you can, but that doesn't equal real dollars coming into the bank account. So better that we deal with it now, right? And so I'm never going to be that person that's going to be like, well, let's nudge that up 0.5% on that sales tax and see where that puts us. Like, let's do what we do. And we ask you to help keep us honest on that, really wire brush us. Long-term commitments and identifying the structural, and this is the biggest one. And I think I mentioned this before too. So my last budget at the county had a structural deficiency, like it was broken. And it was the finance committee that would call it out year over year in one specific fund. It was our road and bridge fund. So it was, Colorado's a little different. That money went into that fund, could only be spent for that. I couldn't commingle general fund with road and bridge fund. And so meanwhile, the county roads were just deteriorating. They were in very bad condition in some cases. And we didn't have the money to do the maintenance that we needed to do. And it was because of a structural deficiency in the budget. And the finance committee raised the issue over year until in 2025, the county said we need to go to the ballot. We need to ask the taxpayers for more money for road and bridge, not for general fund, not for the sheriff's office, not for salaries and general government, anything else. It was specifically for road and bridge. And this past November, they passed. And so I was watching that very closely from afar because I was so invested in it. But identifying if, as you go through the budgets, especially as we work together as a team over the next 3 to 5, 7 years, whatever it is, looking for those things to be like, well, hey, wait a minute, we're getting out of whack here. We're getting out of alignment, and something's got to give. And I think you've already intimated to some degree a little concern about our capital and that we're not putting enough money aside for ongoing capital. And that's a great call out. And so that's something that I've already taken note of. It's in this budget. It's in the draft budget that you've called this out. So it's something we're absolutely going to follow up on as we get into FY 2028 is, okay, we've taken care of some things this year. Next year, we really need to think very strategically about our capital. So to help us be successful in doing that, there's a couple of things going on. If you would have been here at this time yesterday in this building, you would have seen a whole lot of people running around. There were civil engineers, architectural engineers, there was an architect, there was an electrical engineer, there was a mechanical engineer, and there was project manager. We had Michael Baker, who was doing the facilities master plan for the town. That got commissioned and started. They did their site visit yesterday. They were here in town this week for 2 days. They visited all of our facilities and they did assessments of all of our structures with the exception of the rental properties.
What property?
The residential houses. We didn't do structural analysis on those.
And this was only on structures, not infrastructure.
It was not on water and sewer infrastructure. It was on structures. Correct.
Okay.
And so part of the facilities master plan that they're going to build for us over the next 10 months, one of the appendices to that is going to be the state of our buildings and where we need to invest in our buildings. And I asked them, I confirmed with them, because I know when we did the scope of work, we wanted this, but I confirmed when I had the whole team here that the level of detail in that appendix is going to be sufficient for me to build a capital plan so that I can look at all of our facilities, because that's usually something that can sneak up on you. Like for example, this building is now 22 years old. I think the town 2004, so 26, so 22 years old. Still feels like a brand new building, but 22 years old for roofs and HVACs, right? I mean, there could be a day here in the next 2 or 3 years where something goes wrong. So we need to now start planning for that. And that's this building. And frankly, this is the best asset we have in the town. Okay. We've got some buildings that are definitely in need of a lot of attention. And so we're going to get that. So when I talk about things like identifying structural issues or deficiencies, highlighting those, I think you did that. I thank you for that. I think you're spot on that we need to focus on capital, and we will take a very hard look at that as we go into 2028, and we'll use the facilities master plan to help inform that. Other things that you've already done that we asked you to do, most importantly, you helped with the reserve and the fund balance policies. That was tremendous because in this draft budget, you can see the intergovernmental transfers that Karina has in there. They're pretty significant, so they jump off the page at you. But that's a good thing. I mean, it looks like money is getting spent down. It's not. It's going into the appropriate reserves. and by category, which is where we want it. We want that money clearly identified. I'm really proud of the work that this committee did in making those recommendations, and I'm really proud of the elected officials for adopting that and getting that on the books. Gives me a lot of peace of mind now, knowing that if something goes wrong, and something will, because it always does, we just don't know when it's gonna be. No, in 2019, nobody saw a pandemic coming, and yet we all went through it. So we know something's gonna happen. Could be a fire, could be a flood, could be a tornado, could be another pandemic, endemic, whatever. I feel much more comfortable now knowing that we have the reserves set aside, clearly identified, and now we can start investing in the fund balance for capital. So that's huge, and I can't thank you enough for doing that. And then finally, just doing what you do, which is asking the hard questions and then highlighting any key issues or concerns that you have. So that's what I asked the finance committee. And I know that's a lot. It's kind of all over the map. I'd be happy to, type it up in a memo or something. What I need to do though is this committee has some specific responsibilities that were called out in its formation in the foundational document, the resolution that formed this committee. And there are some timelines in there that I think I missed one in the fall because I think there's supposed to be a.
Well, we separated the operating from capital, and the idea was to do those two separate, but then didn't seem feasible. So when that was put together, it was kind of like, okay, what did we want to see the committee do? And then as this committee formed and you came on, it's like, well, that really doesn't make sense anymore.
Well, then we need to change that because
Yeah.
be that as it may, right now it says that, and I think
Mhm.
I think there's a month in there that there's
Yeah,
supposed to be something,
And
and then
that's
in
capital,
April.
and that's the operating in April, but it doesn't, the idea was to separate those out to identify, but it doesn't make sense to.
Okay, well, then we need to clean up that resolution.
Yeah,
That's
well,
right.
also the responsibilities need to be more adjusted to how the finance committee is going to be operating in the future, so that needs to be changed.
Okay, we'll take a note, and then once we get through the budget, let's clean that up, and then maybe I can add some of the things that I talked about now a couple of times, and we can just codify like the roles and responsibilities of the finance committee, or at least expectations, something somewhere.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
This young lady over here.
Mhm.
Is there anything, I'm prejudiced to treasurers, and are you gonna be getting all that you want from what he wants?
Yeah, I think so. I think just not knowing, since it was something new and something that when I was taking budget trainings, that they always referred to the finance committee reviewing the budget. And all this, like, well, we don't have that. We need that. And just trying to piece something together so that we could at least form it.
Right,
And then with Chuck coming on and giving us guidance with his experience, it does make sense for what he's asking.
okay.
Yes.
That's great. I didn't realize that little piece of history. That helps me understand.
She basically created, she didn't create it, but she brought it to,
Mr. Chair.
Push for it.
right.
It just,
And as soon as I saw it, I was, some blurb somewhere. I said, I want to be a piece of that if I can.
Absolutely.
And, but anyway, now I wanted to find some more people and
no, yeah.
be ready to.
Yeah, it was just one of those things when we were doing budget trainings that I'm like, well, we're missing that piece. We don't have that.
I think the last thing that I would love to be able to lean on finance committee for, and this really just will come down to the composition of the committee and the skill sets that are resident. But when we talked about the law enforcement officers pension system, the LEOPS, we prepared a staff product for the elected body, really looking at one half of the equation, the expenditure side. Because that was work that we felt comfortable doing, because that was a straight line comparison between a fixed expenditure cost against another fixed expenditure cost. I think we had 4 variables, but they applied equally to both, and then we could straight line forecast that. It was very straightforward for us to do that. And council called me out on it immediately, and they said, you're only giving us half the equation, whereas the forecast for revenues was, as you understand, the variables on the revenue side are so complex and there are so many that I firmly believe Karina has the skill set and intellect to do that work, but doesn't have the time to do it because she's leading a team of 3 trying to build the budget and cover the audit at any different point of the year. And so what we did after that conversation was we went out and we talked to 3 different companies, and one wasn't able to help us do that kind of analysis. One told us they could do it. It would take 9 months for them to do it. And then one company said they're gonna work with us, but boy, did they give us a lot of caveats, like, you want it when, and oh boy, okay, so they're gonna do a cover letter that explains like, this is really our best guess, and we're gonna do our best. But someday, depending on the composition of the finance committee, I would love to take a science project like that, not with a short timeline, but to say, here, can you do an analysis like this that helps us understand, layoffs probably won't be the topic in the future. There's always something else that we're going to want to analyze. So that would be another ask that I would have on the finance committee someday. It wasn't something that I felt comfortable bringing to you with the timeline that we were operating under. So we went out to look at some professional vendors to see if they could help us out. But that's just another thing that we may ask in the finance committee in the future.
So I'm sensitive to your time. I have a couple questions.
Absolutely.
First of all, thank you very much for the feedback. But I guess I'm raising the point where there must be a but coming. Is there anything anywhere where we've missed the mark?
Not for me. Not for me. And I mean, I think the work that you've done, that I've highlighted here already, I think it's been outstanding. I appreciate the time and the energy that you put into it. And again, the rigor and the hard questions, because I'd rather have those conversations here. And no is the answer to your question. I don't think you're missing the mark. I haven't gotten any feedback from any of the elected officials that they want or need more from the finance committee. So I think we're on a good path. I think next year, when I'm not as behind the 8 ball as I was this year, being brand new and coming into it, I would like to be here for more of the meetings coming into the budget, just so that we can have better exchange one-on-one and not ask Karina to take those meetings and then bring messages back to me. So I'm confident that by next year things, I should be in a better place in my role in the town, that I'll be able to better manage my time and be able to attend. But no, I think
So your discussion led me to 3 comments. One, I think leading into, I happened to watch when you presented the layouts discussion to the town council, and kudos to you. You stood up to a lot of challenge at that meeting. I guess that's goes with the title.
it does. And our council asks great questions.
Right. So, but I think I, for one, was surprised that, I guess I didn't think about it initially when I looked at it until later. The budget was presented balanced with layoffs included.
That's correct.
And prior to the meeting, I don't think I expected that. I thought we were going to have a lot of challenge balancing with the layoffs. Now, having said that, this discussion you're taking about, what about revenues going forward? It might be balanced this year, but is it going to be balanced next year? We're probably too soon enough, right?
Well, no, I can answer that right now. It'll be a balanced budget.
Oh, okay.
Because I have to.
Right.
Right. Will it be challenging or more challenging? It may be. That's a question we don't know.
So, just to point out a couple things, the reason why we have the balanced budget with layoffs is because of the significant increase in road market. We're talking close to 900,000 between new development and the increase in assessments that are being assessed. The other thing is we are still bringing in around $500,000. We're still budgeting around $500,000 from investment earnings, because we have this large amount that's still sitting in unassigned fund balance that we're earning interest on that we haven't spent down for capital. Well, that's going to reverse as rates go down and we start spending.
Both
that
of
money.
those things will.
So-
We can only do so much development.
Yeah, so I mean, our revenues increased over $1 million to help with some of the additional costs that have been adding in.
The second comment I had kind of goes back to your discussion about our roles. And between last meeting and this one, I put together a sheet that I was going to bring up in new business, but we had the sense that earlier in our lifetime as a finance committee, we were in a position to make recommendations. And the language seems to be different now, that we're only looking to make an analysis. This could be better, this could be, but no recommendations.
Well, okay, let's be clear. I know words mean things and we gotta be careful with definitions. So if this committee comes to me and says, Chuck, we think you've got a structural deficit or you're about to get one, we recommend you take a hard look at this, or maybe don't spend, or reduce your operating and reinvest it here. That's a recommendation to me, absolutely. I think what we're trying to convey is what I don't want this committee to do is, I think last year there were recommendations for like, get a project manager. Those are operational issues, and I feel like I've got that, and I bring that experience to the town. They hired me to do those kinds of things. And so I am not asking this committee to make those kinds of recommendations. What happened before I got here, that was different. That was under a different watch, different leadership, and I'm not criticizing it. So I guess that's the distinction that we're trying to make. Absolutely. Call it a recommendation, call it a red flag, whatever you want to call it. If you see something in the budget that gives you pause or concern for future years, and you want to tell me about that and make a recommendation that I need to adjust, yes,
So
absolutely.
this might tie back to the rules of procedure, not to read it again, but I think I'm hearing from you that you're perfectly comfortable with us as an advisory committee, making recommendations to you and to you.
Correct.
But it's not our job to make a recommendation to the town council. That's yours, right?
That is correct. Yeah, I'll take what you give me, and I may present it to council verbatim, but I think I have the discretion to take what you give me and then shape it.
So I think that might have been, we were in some uncomfortable town council meetings where we were doing the speaking before your time last year. And I don't think we want to find ourselves in that position. I mean, if you call upon us to assist at a town council meeting, I'm sure we're going to be able to do that. But we found we were the speakers.
Yeah, I wouldn't ask you to do that. And I think if you've seen all of the meetings since I've been here, I try to be the focal point. I try to be the conduit for the council, between council and staff. I'm the single point of contact. We try to do that. Now, in the future, I do expect that department heads are going to start briefing more on their topics because I want council to know their department heads. But coming in, I just wanted, especially with the new council, I wanted them focused on me, and I wanted to be the talking head. And really for my own, just getting me up to speed, having to, whatever the topic was on the agenda, having to learn it, be comfortable presenting it, it brought me up to speed very quickly. My asks of finance committees, when I've asked someone to come and speak to the elected body, it's usually to sit right beside me and be that big warm comfort blanket that they need, that level of confidence. I mean, I can tell you his name was Rich Butler. He was the expert at the county, and if my commissioners were ever uncomfortable about something like, oh my goodness, what, I would ask Rich to come sit beside me. He's done his analysis. I would give my presentation. We would take questions, and then
See him moving his head.
and they just trusted him. He was in the community. They knew him. They knew that he knew his business, and it was just that level of confidence that everything was going to be okay. He absolutely would speak. They would ask questions directly to him, but I don't think he ever felt uncomfortable. I don't think he ever felt like he was put in the spotlight or having to defend anything that I was trying to do. Because remember, when I bring it in front of council, I'm bringing it in front of council. This is my decision. This is my recommendation. I'm bringing it forward. I would never put that on staff or on, especially on our volunteer committees. That's not fair.
Now, this might be a little bit off topic, but you brought it up to my mind when you talked about this project that has begun to look at all the facilities. And I asked the question about infrastructure. So I wear two hats in this committee. I'm a resident, as all of us are. And then I'm also a businessman. And from the resident perspective, my home will turn 40 this year. And we're losing the stormwater. And I'm not really seeing in the looks in our budgeting and so forth that that's really going to change. There's more and more cones and orange webbing and so forth in the town.
What neighborhood are you in?
Parkstone.
Parkstone, okay. I was hoping you'd say Kings Grant, because I just had a meeting yesterday on this topic. And I was gonna be able to rattle off some really impressive numbers for you. But I don't have those numbers for Clarkstone. So we are moving on stormwater. We know there's a backlog of work that needs to be done. The town council approved 3 contracts in December of 2025. I think they totaled just under $100,000, the 3 of them together, for stormwater work throughout the town. So Quellwood, Kings Grant, and I don't remember no, Redwood Circle, that's Parkstone.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that would be like. Yeah, that-
Well, no, that's a separate project. That's
Oh.
huge. That's like a $600,000 project. That's separate and distinct. So that was some work that we just got approved by council, and those contracts are let, and those vendors have been assigned, and we have their scope of works. So we are moving on that. And we have changed our philosophy a little bit on how we're doing that work. And I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic that it's going to help us start moving projects faster with stormwater. And boy, I really want to talk about this. How are we doing with that? So the first thing that we did, and this was probably in August or maybe September of 2025, I went to council and explained that I wanted to change how we bid those contracts. Because what I saw in the very, very short time that I had been here at that point was that we were getting high centered on scope of work. And going out to bid, we would do an RFP, that takes time, we would get proposals, we'd have to review them. And then we'd get a vendor selected, and there would be this back and forth on the scope of work. And we weren't ever getting contracts awarded. And I saw that immediately. And I asked if we have on-call contracts, and we did not. So I asked council, or I guess I informed council that we were going to flip the model. So now we have on-call vendors, and I think we have 3. And so we have 3 vendors that we've already pre-competed. So we have vendors now that can do stormwater work and other work for us. And I don't have to do an RFP. So now when I get a project, I can just take them and say, this is the work. You give me a proposal on what it's going to take for you to fix that. I'll validate it as the government agent. I'll look at it and go, yep, that looks good. Time and materials looks about right. That's good. Proceed. And I don't have to do procurement anymore. Okay, so we can move on it. So these first 3 contracts were the first of that model. And so now we've got 3 different vendors doing 3 different projects in different areas of the town. And we're going to assess their work. We're going to see, the quality of work, how economical they are, how responsive they are. We're going to learn. My hope is that they're all great and that we can just start pushing projects out until we run out of money. And then I hope, and I really hope, that I have to go back in front of council and say, I want to take money out of fund balance because I want to do more stormwater projects because we spent all the money in storm.
Yeah, and you can demonstrate some progress.
Exactly.
To support that.
Exactly. So that's what I want to do. And I wanted to go somewhere else with that, and I forgot.
So while you're thinking about that, the second half, this will be my last comment. As a business manager, Port Tobacco Players is an 85-year-old building. We've been in it for 25. But we've been in it since 74, 50 years. And, obviously with that goes to maintenance. But now, this isn't a latest issue, but state highways coming in, taking away in front parking. And we already are challenged with parking. So we're doing our best to keep up with, maintenance. And so far, we haven't had any real issues with the town infrastructure or anything like that. Well, there is a stormwater management issue on the side by the Vanguard. It's ever present in my mind as we go through this. And it will be on my mind as we have meetings like this, like it or not. So
I think it'll get dark before the dawn. I think
that's encouraging, but probably right.
because the state is going to come through and do that pedestrian safety enhancement work along Route 6, and it is going to change it. I think at the end of the project, whatever that is, I think it's gonna be well worth it. I think there's gonna be a lot of pain and suffering and inconvenience.
Ongoing after it's done, as far as I'm concerned.
So, but I think at the end of the day, the project in and of itself, it aligns with the town's strategic plan, it aligns with the town's comprehensive plan. It helps make a more walkable downtown, it provides for pedestrian safety, it does a lot of good. And then the plazas, and I believe it's the parking that's being consumed in front of Fort Tobacco Players is to create that plaza. I think that'll be a really nice feature when it's done. And then in conjunction with that project, I think you're aware that we're also working closely with the State Highway Administration to do the water main replacement along Route 6 at the same time. So one dig, okay? And we brought that to the table, not quite 11th hour, maybe 10th hour. It was last fall and they were already at 65% design. And we said, wait a minute, we don't want to have a beautiful new street, and brand new asphalt, and then have to come through a year later or 2 years later and dig it up. So we shifted, we got some engineers to get on that immediately and get the design done. And State Highway Administration engineers are working directly with them so that it will be one dig. And so it's going to be inconvenient during the process. We will get through it. When it's over, I think it will be worth it. I think it'll be well worth it. And I think the community will be grateful for it when it's done. Long-term relief, February 3rd, the Planning Commission approved the library project for the county. That's right there on Washington. Correct. Okay. That's going to have an auxiliary parking lot on North Main, access off North Main. So that's a comfortable stroll from the theater. We're already working, council's made it clear that they want sidewalk connectors to bring people down safely from that parking lot into the downtown corridor. So we're gonna absolutely make sure, in fact, I need to send you an email to make sure that that sidewalk project gets into the CIP.
Okay.
It's on my list to do before I go home tomorrow, okay? Right, so again, that's long term. There's gonna be some inconvenience, some pain and inconvenience, you know, in the short term, but long term, all of these projects are aligning with the town's adopted comprehensive plan and the town's strategic plan. Downtown walkable, you know, the historic district area. So like any project of that size and scope that the state does, there's always going to be inconvenience. My perspective coming in is I think that the state has done a very good job in working with the business owners and the property owners along Charles to make design changes to accommodate their concerns and try to mitigate it as best they can. They can't give everybody everything that they want. They just can't.
Do you feel like the traffic, the vehicular traffic is gonna be removed, not during the construction,
Okay.
but afterwards?
So I asked that question. I was literally one day in my office. During the first week, I had a meeting with State Highway Administration on this project. And having lived here at St. Mary's for all of, 10 days at that point, I'd already had the pleasure of experiencing trying to turn left on Charles at 3:30. And so that was the question I asked was, is this project, I understand it's pedestrian safety, is it going to impact traffic? Is it going to make it worse? And the answer was no. And I followed up on that question not even a month ago on a call with the project manager. And they did their traffic analysis and their study. And on streets like this, they do levels of service, okay? The levels of service are basically letter grades, A, B, C, D, E, and F. A is great, that's free-flowing traffic and you never stop and everybody moves and you get where you want to go and there's never any problems. That's A. F is failing, that's gridlock, that's when you just can't move, an intersection has failed and it's just a disaster. That's a 5 o'clock rush hour scenario. They did the traffic analysis, and I think, and please don't quote me on the year they went through, I believe it was through 2040. This did not substantially decrease the levels of this project did not substantially decrease the levels of service. And they broke it down by morning commute, evening commute, and then all other times, right? And they got letter grades for those. And so they walked me through it, and I said, okay, so when I'm asked that question, because I get asked that question frequently, I said, is it safe for me to say that you've done your analysis and based on the best information available at the time, this safety project was not going to negatively impact future traffic patterns? And they said, you can absolutely say that. So that's what I'm saying. Now, development could happen. There are other things that can impact that road beyond the pedestrian safety enhancements that may impact that road. And so it will be hard, if not impossible, to try and separate those 5 years from now. People may always blame the state for coming in and putting in the plaza that ruined traffic. That may happen. In fact, I might even say it's likely to happen. But I think there's a lot of other factors. So not only is there the library parking lot that's going to provide relief, again, at some point in the future, okay? But the La Plata Parkway is planned and is going to be built. We know that it's going to be built.
That's one thing we need at least.
And when that comes through, well, now you've got 301 Washington, La Plata Parkway, and then radio station. So now we've got more relief for that north-south traffic.
I like that east-west.
Well, east-west is a different story. And
That's what I'm talking about. How is the ambulance going to get to the hospital?
Well, but if we can move traffic off of Charles, right? And so if you're moving, we don't have a Plata Parkway right now. So right now you're restricted to Washington or 301. Okay, so if you come in on radio station and you need to get, I don't know, if you're going to Walmart, you come down, you're either going to go up Washington or you're going to go up 301. Well, maybe maybe now you can go up a different way to get you off of Charles, because now maybe you're going to Lowe's. So now you come in and you go up La Plata Parkway and you go to Lowe's. Now you're not on Charles. You're not congesting that traffic.
I feel like our council's great failures is we let that crossing that would put you right over, it comes off to the parkway would lead you directly to Walmart.
Okay.
And we actually had the crossing approved there and didn't move on it and lost it.
Okay. So we now own that road. We have the deed for that. That was settled in November of 2025.
Right.
So now we own that piece of road. That was part of the challenges. That's why that crossing wasn't completed. So now the town owns that section of road. So that's one of the barriers, and we've broken that down. So we've solved that problem. So
What road are you talking about?
I'm talking about-
On the east side
on
or the
the
west side?
on the east side, right now it stubs between Magnolia and Alpaz. Right there, is it Hawthorne? Is it Hawthorne? I'd have to look at the roads. Okay, it's the road right there. It's the one you're talking about. That's going to cross over the railroad tracks
Right.
into the Pine Grove neighborhood.
Okay,
That stub, the town did not own. We do now. So
okay,
that's been resolved.
okay.
And we are working right now. The council approved a contract in January, $250,000 contract for engineering and design for the stormwater drainage along that stub to clean that up, because we are preparing that road, okay, that section for that crossover. Okay, that's another key feature in the future that's going to provide a lot of relief, because now Pine Grove traffic won't have to come down Charles. It will be able to come that way. That's going to be in the future. I don't have a timeline for that,
Okay.
but
We're also
doing
gonna
things.
have a crossing because we let the damn things slide.
I know, but the
You
train
think-
track's still there. That's a problem for future, Chuck, okay?
Okay.
I got some things to work with today. I'll get to that one. But we're working on it, and we made a lot of headway just in getting that conflict resolved with Magnolia and Scale South Pass. And now we have the deed to that road. So
Another thing I would add to your answer to your question about safety of that place, I think, I'm pretty sure circles are less prone to accidents than perpendiculars. So the accidents we have in Oak and Kent are often. But since I'm right at the theater all the time, I see them and hear them all the
Right.
time. I think the circles will certainly decrease that. But the last thing I would say about that, I've met with Sean Boyle, he's the
Correct.
project manager on that. And he's taking my words out of context. He's telling everybody, even on the radio, that the representative from Port Tobacco Players is widely enthusiastic about it. Well, he's taking it out of context because I said that after I asked the question, what if we say no? And he said, eminent domain. So my first thought was, well, why was I even invited to the meeting? But secondly, well, if this is what I have to live with, give me your options. I said, if I'm not gonna have parking there, I think the plaza is a great idea. But I'm being taken out of context.
Okay, fair enough. Nobody wants eminent domain. Right, I don't, I mean, the town doesn't, the state doesn't, nobody wants that. We always want to partner and come to some kind of mutually beneficial arrangement for the good of our community. So I think that may be the answer. The state has to go down and go through at some point, and there's probably gonna be, and I know there's gonna be fair market compensation for any land that they need to acquire, that's not in the right of way. But nobody wants eminent domain. I mean, we always want to come to some kind of collaboration for our community, right? All right, what else can I answer for you?
Appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate yours and the work that you've done for us. The town appreciates it. I know that the council does. Again, it gives a level of confidence when we come in and present these numbers, knowing that, a third set of eyes have looked everything over. All right, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your non-meeting, and I'll see you next time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, well, I guess we're gonna push, are we gonna review, I mean, there are no decisions being made on the reports, it's just for you guys to ask any questions on the monthly.
So
report.
let me know, this is a technology question. I made comments on the document online. Do you get to see those, or do I have to bring them up to you verbally? Because whenever you make a comment on these things, you post it, which
Oh,
gives me the idea that,
I don't get it
Okay.
online.
okay, so I could certainly share this with you. Most of them dealt with variances that seemed, wow. But I actually use those words a couple times, wow.
Oh,
So what would be the reasons for those?
okay, which report was it?
Actually, I think two of the documents seem to be the same one.
Well, one should have been December, one should have been January.
Okay, I think it was in December.
I have January with some notes, I think, on some variances.
While he's looking, what is Protect or no? Perkridge Fleet Services,
Is that-
170-some thousand payment.
That might have been a vehicle purchase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that looks like a vehicle purchase.
So that's one of my comments. I remember that the expense for fleet maintenance seemed to be exceeding budget at this time of year.
Oh, okay.
Do we have a
So it's on the
fleet?
December one? Are you talking about under
Yeah.
the
I'm pretty
fleet
sure it was in
maintenance?
December.
So,
Unfortunately, I had all these things open earlier, but.
fleet maintenance, is actually well below. I mean, because we budgeted 183, we're only at 28,000. I can tell you why, because we were, had a vacancy there in fleet maintenance, and now they're reallocating it, so for FY '27. So that's why that's much lower compared to the budget.
Now I'm going through it and we don't see the comments. Must be only January.
What is ICS?
Oh, that's our investment account. That's the one through West Banco. That's what we
Okay.
have. That's our sweep. So
Okay.
we keep like 1.7 million in our checking, and anything above that gets swept into the investment account.
Gotcha.
This is unfortunate. It's not saving anything.
Oh,
So I'll have to go through it again. I'll email you.
okay.
feedback.
Fees and fines, this is, the December,
Mhm.
is well above the 268,000. Was that the cameras, bringing in?
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's two reasons they increased significantly. One is that they started going back for those, tickets that.
Oh,
were
that's
issued
right.
4 months, and nobody was collecting on them, and they finally caught
The
up.
ones that they weren't
Yeah.
paying
And
properly.
then in October, they changed the fee structure, and now it's not just a flat 40, it depends on how much over. the
Oh,
speed.
really?
So there were two things. In the beginning of the year, it was the collection of all those, and now that we had the increase in the fees. then you have
Okay,
it.
all right.
Yeah.
And I'm taking up, you welcome to jump in. I'm just, while you're looking,
Okay, well, I am ready to speak.
Go.
So I am on the January,
Mhm.
page 3, must be 3.
Great. Uh-huh.
Budget to date.
Mhm.
The revenues is extremely small relative to expenditures and also time in the year. 34.8% for revenues. Oh, remaining.
Yeah, that's remaining.
I misread that.
And
Sorry.
then remember, we're front on real property tax. We collect that in the
Yes,
first half of the year.
Okay. This is jumping over the place. So. I must have been thinking totally backwards because now I'm gonna look at this, like you just reminded me of Fleet Man's much lower. I read it the actually opposite way. I'm trying to remember what my comments were. Okay, I'll review it again.
all of those, we should be at about 50% if all things were equal.
Yeah. well,
Okay.
but-
And I know they're not equal,
Yeah.
but these are, no, am I misreading? They're nowhere near,
Well, this chart shows the percentage of each department using or have expensed, the total expense. So the total expense is 5.7 million.
Right.
And this is the percentage of the 5.7 million. So of that 5.7, public safety or the police department is at just below 45% of this 5.7 million. This is what that chart shows. It shows the percentage of each department
Oh.
using the total expense. to do.
okay, so they wouldn't, most of them wouldn't
So-
have a big percent to spend.
So on page 7, that will show you the percentage remaining compared to
Okay.
budget versus expense on each of the departments. But that also includes capital.
Oh, okay, this is just saying, okay, what each department has of the.
What they've used of the total expenses today.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So that prompts me to think. My daughter and son-in-law both work for the federal government. They're on a October, September cycle. And September's always crazy for them because money allocated, they're doing everything they can to spend it. Do we have any of that issue here?
So not really, but the council wants, if a department puts in their budget saying that they're gonna do something, the council's expecting them to do it. So they're not supposed to be spending their budget just to spend the budget. It's supposed to be spending the budget based on what they planned on doing.
Correct.
Granted, things happen and things come up that we didn't plan for, but then that would be a budget amendment or a reallocation. But if you plan to do something, they're expecting you to
So
do it.
here's the potential behavior that I'm expressing concern about. Every department has a basis to say they don't have enough people to spend all this money. And we get too late in the game, and then we realize we gotta spend it. Council gave it to us, council said, we gotta spend it, and then it either becomes unspent because we ran out of time, or it's spent but not as well as it otherwise could have been. Do you have any of those
Well,
concerns?
Not really, because in the budget, like last year's budget and this budget, we're asking them to identify what they're gonna spend on. So if like, there's in my budget for finance, I have allocated, for employees to go to the GFOA conference, employees to, our procurement to take more training. I've allocated those monies to it. I specifically said that's what we're gonna do. Now, if I go and say, well, procurement didn't spend all their money in training, I want to train something else, I could do that, but I need to let management know that I did plan this.
Back to your first point is, you've identified it, you told them they're gonna do it, you need to put it on the calendar too, so that they make the time to do it. That's really where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
I'd hate to see what Joe raised on a, 3 months from now, and we still show low numbers. That would increase my concern. not
yeah.
decrease it.
Well, for like fleet maintenance, it was more of, we just had a vacancy, and that's kind of harder to control.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So if you had plans on doing a project, yes, you're expected to do that project. And that's why we have those capitals projects listed out with what, and how much we plan to spend this year, the total amount of the project, how long it's gonna take. So we start putting that on the capital improvement plan. But it's up to the department. They've listed what they're gonna do. And in each of the line items, there's a list of what that request is gonna cover.
And it should be up to the departments.
Yeah.
Your
You
job
will,
is to
yeah.
help them, and help the council get a budget approved that says this is what you're gonna spend your money on in this budget year.
Public Works and Maintenance percent remaining. I guess some of it
It's page
could
eight.
be street, that's page 7.
Which budget?
Oh, I'm sorry, the December.
Okay. All right, and you're on page 7, and which one are you looking at?
Oh, I'm looking at Public Works and Maintenance.
You mean the facilities and operations or fleet maintenance?
I'm looking, well, particularly facilities, operation, fleet maintenance, and streets and stormways.
Yeah. So yeah, we are kind of high on that because this includes capital and they've just.
Oh, it does
they-
include
yes,
capital.
And they just started paving streets. So
Okay.
the streets are gonna go down.
Oh, yeah.
Also, the facility maintenance, there was Dorchester that was in there, so that they're just starting, so that expense hasn't occurred yet, so that's why that's high.
Sorry, Joe, specifically on the Dorchester project. I see that it may be hard to spend that money this year.
Yeah, I don't anticipate them to, it's in the budget it's in the capital budget for FY. 27, yes, yeah, and it doesn't really matter because grant funds, we're gonna use it, well, we didn't incur expense and we didn't get grant funds, so there's no impact on the net between the revenues and expenses.
And you still need a manager. Okay.
Well, there is, so
I know,
in
you
the
spoke to that.
FY 27 budget, yeah, there's an engineer and the engineer is supposed to be responsible for project.
Okay.
Capital project management.
Okay. Contracting services, now why did I do that? That's why. Also, is Mr. Gallo still on board?
No, we have a new attorney. I think that was effective February 15th.
Okay,
Don't quote me on that.
is this kind of, this 79,000 and change, in the 1 is that kind of
It's-
catch up on
yes.
stuff that's
Yeah,
already
he
done,
has,
okay?
getting me invoices. I have to get on him.
Huh?
I have to get on him to send me.
To send you bills?
Yeah.
No kidding, that's,
Yep.
I've never
I
understood
know.
that, but,
I don't get it either.
okay. You've answered to that. That might be my business.
Who's the new attorney?
Oh, I know
And is
that. We just met them, Monday.
Local or out of town?
I wouldn't say they're local, but they're very familiar with, municipal government. They're on the, attorney for municipal league, something or another. They're, the person that we had is the president of that.
Oh.
And the other one is the treasurer for that, attorney municipal league. So they're very familiar with municipal government.
Did you ever work with a fellow by the name of Fred Sussman?
Yeah, he was the attorney before Go.
What happened there?
The new council that came in changed, just like
Okay.
this one did. Decided
Okay.
they wanted somebody else.
No kidding. Interesting.
Yeah, because the council picks the attorney.
Yeah.
Like they pick us.
Yeah.
Your recommendation.
You work on that address
Hmm.
for that candidate.
I know, I emailed her, I was like, the address you have isn't coming up in our system, but when I look it up on Google, it shows that you're in town. Can you please confirm what your address is? Yeah, I'm very hopeful for this one.
Does she get a water bill for some local plan?
Well, that's the thing. The address she gave me, I couldn't find. But then when I looked it up, I asked planning, and they go, well, this address doesn't exist. So I went to Google Maps and I looked up, and it puts it right at where Dorchester, that corner of Potomac Avenue, Dorchester. Well, that's in town, but that's not the address coming up in our system. It's that, oh, I can't say, it starts with an E, I think, that road. So I emailed, I was like, can you confirm your address? Because when I put in this address, that's not coming up, but it says that address is this address. So can you confirm it so I can get this out?
Well, good. We've got to work on some, I don't know how we would, but some candidates for this committee.
So,
Yeah, I told you that Andre let me know that his wife is moving
Yeah.
to Ohio in a few months and he will be.
He's got a couple more months. So.
Yeah. He said
He's
he
with
can't
us until that
guarantee.
happens?
Yeah, he said he could come in April, but he can't guarantee May or anytime after that.
Okay.
so I was gonna propose, it's been a regular meeting under new business, so I was gonna propose that we take a closer look at our structure, composition, big deal, even before I knew Karen and Andre. And I summarized it all in this little document, but I can read it to everybody too. Just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And my thoughts here was to make sure that we know which of us is meeting the requirements.
Oh, you know what? Kelly has this and she sent it to me, with who was under what.
Cool.
Send it to you. Let me, okay,
Okay.
yeah, make sure I
It's
send
our-
it.
it's logged in our system too, I think, and AMN can fax it, I just saw it the other day.
So Shelby, say that again, it's logged in your
So
system?
I don't think it's gonna be on the side that you can see.
That's my.
Kelly and I, yeah, Kelly
Because-
and I can see it.
We had a SharePoint, but apparently that's outside the rules of open.
Open meeting,
Open meeting rules.
yeah.
Okay.
But I will send
Am I
that.
still able to share this with you by email? But
Yeah,
not with the whole
I mean,
committee?
the way the communication, correct me if I'm wrong, is anything that you guys have to communicate needs to go through me. And then I disperse out to the
Okay.
other members. But there should not be any collaboration or communication
Yeah.
between members.
So I left that top part blank so that we could fill in. If Kelly's already done it, that's great. And then initial appointees had a different requirement for term length than
Yeah,
replacement. So Andre is in his first year of 4 years. None of us have 4 years. And I'm assuming that based on the way things happen, Nicole and Randy were the initial appointee 1 year.
Yep.
And they both rolled off after the year.
yep.
Joe, Karen, and I were 3 years. And now, that means we all expire, because we started in January of 25,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we all expired January of 28.
Mhm.
But Karen's no longer here, so that's 3 vacancies, and you're really close to filling one.
Yeah, I'm really hoping, because I really like this lady. She works for the federal government in, contracts and capital. She manages, capital funds, so, and she does a lot of, analysis, financial analysis.
See, that's what we need, because
So like,
I'm-
that's what we,
I'm
yeah.
clearly weak in that area, and,
We
so,
call you Joe Treasurer. What do you mean you're waking up?
I know, but I can just, the town thought because I was the county treasurer, that I certainly knew all this stuff, and I sat up there and told them before they hired me, I don't know a debit from a credit, so. But they said, oh, you can do it. Anyway,
What did I-
one good thing I did, you'd be sending out tax bills if I hadn't done what I did when I was county treasurer.
You had
We
taken a lot.
went, and the town of Plato jumped on it because they knew me already. Indian Head was as suspicious as could be.
I mean, the assessments come from the state that tells me what it's gonna be, so I just need to keep track of that.
Right,
And
And I get a report from the county, this whole big report, like, yep, those numbers match. We're
are you
good."
saying Joe residents would have gotten 2 tax bills, one from town and one from county?
oh, they did.
When did that stop? Was I getting that before? I mean, I've been
When
here
did I
almost 40
become
years.
county treasurer?
Oh, it's in my
Not
time.
long ago, just a long time ago. I think in '94, I forgot.
Okay. Yeah. I've been here about 8 years.
But, well, probably a couple of years after that, I got to thinking about it. Every account that the town has, we already had the treasurer's office. And all we needed to do was add at that time, one line item to the bill, and then since then, 2 or 3 line items probably. but-
We are grateful for that.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
it made sense. It was insane not to.
So going back to Chuck's talk, what's outside the normal reviewing your monthly reports and so forth, what's the next big thing?
Well,
that
it
this committee
depends.
will see?
Well, it depends on what projects come up. So, I mean, you'll get the monthly reports and then there's the budget. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else that's routine. It would be any special projects that would come up. Yeah. Kind of like some of the things that have already come up, things that have. come to you.
Our next meeting
So
is-
we could essentially not need a meeting if there's no special project or anything that needs evaluating and analysis for.
And our next meeting is the 9th of April.
If that's the second
Yep.
Thursday. Well, I'm hoping this new member, everything goes well, we can get it to council on the 24th. Then we have that meeting on April, so you guys can meet her, we can go over the February report, and kind of catch her up on speed.
And that would be Andre's last meeting.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have another applicant, but her address, she definitely did not live in town. She is just right outside of town, a little past Roswick. So we're gonna have some-
And see, She was, Williams, what was her name?
Nicole?
Nicole. She passed Roseway.
Because when we get the applicants, we look,
She was in Clark's Run, so,
oh, okay.
and I just happened to see a property transfer. And I said,
Yeah,
oh,
it's might be Washington.
that's who they are. And I guarantee you, she did not know that she had moved out of town. I should have become suspicious when she didn't get a water bill later on, but really, I mean, you don't think about it. You may not
Yeah, I
think
mean,
about it.
when they apply, we're looking at the address that they're putting on their.
Exactly.
application.
And next thing I knew, 1.2 million, I think, place she bought, up on Washington Avenue, way up on Washington Avenue. It's got, I don't know if it's got some commercial that runs out to 301 or what made it so expensive.
But just to confirm, each member must reside within the town limits, right?
Yes, except for the one who manages or owns the business.
But the
Could live-
business needs to be in the town.
Yes, the business has to be in there. Correct.
Let me ask you, what if we found a business person? Would you be willing to switch?
Well, he would just be
Yeah, I'd
another
just be-
member.
then
and
I'd just be-
That's what I mean, but I mean, he would no longer,
Yeah, because in the code, it requires one member to own or manage a business.
right, but that's, I mean, you wouldn't have any problem not being.
No, I mean, if we can fill out the committee, that seems to make sense, because I'm still a Plano resident.
Exactly, you got qualifications.
And I've got financial experience.
Yeah, so
Right.
you meet all the requirements.
Yeah.
So we can move them around as needed.
Yeah, I mean, that's, okay,
Little cupcake, where's the key?
that's it. We don't need to adjourn, I guess, do we?
I would appreciate the magic word just
All right.
for record's
This
sake
meeting is adjourned.
at 3:22 PM.
All right.
And
All right, I will send you what Kelly sent me right now, because I will go to my office, start working